Hello everyone, welcome back to my IELTS stream. In today's video, we are going to talk about subject-verb agreement, which is a part of simple present tense. Now, subject-verb agreement is present in other tenses as well, but for today, we are only going to talk about simple present tense. First, we are going to start off by showing you how making mistakes in simple present tense will cost you marks in writing and speaking modules. And then we are going to teach you what is subject-verb agreement. We are going to go stepwise. First, we will show you what is a subject, what is a verb, and then how finally they agree with each other. Apart from that, if you stay till the end of the video, we also have a small free writing task to feedback for you for the question, which will be specifically given at the end of the video. Apart from this, in our next video, we will be discussing the different ways in which subject-verb agreement becomes complicated and how to apply the rules in different situations. So stay tuned for our next video as well. I hope that you learned something new today and we are able to help you with your IELTS preparation. So what is the relevance of subject-verb agreement in IELTS? Simple present tense is the most commonly used tense in essay writing. Now, I do not mean to say that that is throughout the only tense which is used in essay writing, but that is the most commonly used tense. And also at several points in speaking, almost every sentence in simple present tense involves the use of subject-verb agreement. So whenever you use simple present tense, subject-verb agreement is used most of the time, and simple present tense is the most commonly used tense for writing and speaking. So that is the relevance of this topic in your IELTS modules. For example, we have this sample here for essay. This is the introduction of an essay. And the first paragraph we have here is the correct usage of subject-verb agreement. A certain group of people say that there are a lot of options to choose from in the current world. This essay agrees with the given statement, reasons being that globalization has diversified every market and the internet has enabled consumers to access things that they could not in the previous decades. Now, in the second paragraph, we are going to show you where we could make mistakes if we get subject-verb agreement wrong. A certain group of people say that there are a lot of options to choose from in the current world. This essay agree with the given statement, reasons being that globalization have diversified every market and the internet have enabled consumers to access things that they could not in the previous decades. So this is where you could make mistakes. Given the introduction itself, there are only 2 sentences here and one of them has 3 grammatical mistakes, and that is going to cost you marks in grammatical range and accuracy section. Here we have an example of the speaking test, like for the first part of the speaking test, which is the introduction part. What does your family like to do on weekends? We likes to go for picnics. We have a big family. I has a lot of cousins. My mother liked to cook delicious food for everyone and we loves to try new dishes. So every single clause almost has a mistake, and if you make such mistakes, you are definitely not going to score a 7. You are hardly going to reach 6 bands in speaking. So if I were to tell you what is the right way to say the same thing, I'm telling you that it should be we like to go for picnics. We have a big family and I have a lot of cousins. My mother likes to cook delicious food for everyone and we love to try new dishes. So that would be the correct grammar for this question. Another example, who is your favorite actor? My favorite actor is Chris Evans. He acts very well in all his movies. He also do charity work and respect his fans. He impressed everyone. So now every single sentence except for the first sentence has mistakes. So this is entirely an answer in the simple present tense because this is like a question related to your regular general days, like who is your favorite actor. So we see that there are 4 grammatical mistakes here, and if you make these many mistakes, you are definitely not going to score a 7 in grammatical range and accuracy. So if I were to tell you the correct answer would be, my favorite actor is Chris Evans. He acts very well in all his movies. He also does charity work and respects his fans. He impresses everyone. So the confusion here is, when should I use a verb with S and when should I not use a verb with S? That is the main confusion with subject-verb agreement. Now, how does it hold you back? It usually creates problems for those who have not studied from an English medium education. Now, the IELTS exam, being an exam for speakers who are not native English speakers, usually has candidates who are not from English medium education backgrounds. So, because there are a lot of candidates who speak other languages and they have to appear for the IELTS exam, subject-verb agreement becomes difficult for them because their native language is structured in a different manner. Even if you have good ideas in both speaking and writing, you will lack in grammatical accuracy. This is true. So you could be a candidate who has good ideas for your speaking and your writing, good and relevant ideas, but if you lack in grammar, you might fail the test. Mistakes are repeated with words like has, have, is, am, are, and with SES forms of verb, which we are going to look into in our next as we go ahead with the lesson. Now, what is subject-verb agreement? The basics. We will first need to understand what is a subject, the different types of subjects, singular and plural forms of the subject. Then we will see what is a verb. We are not going to get into very technical details because if we were to teach you everything about verbs, we would need a whole 1 week of video. So we are not going to do that today, but we are going to tell you things which would be enough to understand and to apply the concept of subject-verb agreement. So we will also understand what are the singular and plural forms of verb, and after we are done with these 2 stages, we will go into how to frame them together to agree in a sentence. What is a subject? Sam plays football. The subject here is Sam. What is a subject? The one who does some action. So that is the definition of a subject, and it's quite simple. Any person or any non-living thing that does some action in a sentence is the subject of the sentence. At least that is what they're in active voice. And we are going to concentrate on active voice today. Sam plays football. He likes it a lot. So Sam is the subject in the first clause, and in the second clause, he is the subject. So he is a pronoun which is replacing the proper noun Sam. So subjects can be nouns and pronouns also. Types of subjects, or more specifically, subject personal pronouns. So the first person is the person speaking. So right now I'm the one speaking, so I am the first person. And if it is in plural, so the first person is we. Second person, the person spoken to, it is just one, you. So even if I'm talking to one person, the second person is you. And even if I'm talking to a group of people, the second person is you. Third person, the person or thing spoken about. So they are he, she, it, and they. So these are pronouns. These are all pronouns. So I'm not saying that apart from he, she, it, and they, there can be no other third person. There can be, but right now we are talking about subject personal pronouns. So he, she, it, and they are the personal pronouns which are used for third person. Singular and plural subject pronouns. First person, if the subject is first person and singular, it is I. If the subject is first person and plural, it is we. If the subject is second person and singular, it is you. Second person and plural stays the same, you. Third person and singular, he, she, it. Third person and plural, they. So that is how we have classified it, that first, second, third person, but then singular and plural also, you need to be precise with that. Singular and plural subjects, apart from the subject personal pronouns that we just discussed. Subjects apart from I, we, you, he, she, it, and they that do some action come without SES in their singular form. So this is just the basic rule for how do you determine if a subject is singular or a plural subject. So if the subject comes without S and ES, then the subject is considered singular. But if the subject comes with S and ES, then it is a plural subject. Now there are exceptions to this, for example, man and men. Now not all subjects take S or ES to change into their plural forms. Some subjects will change the spelling in some different manner. For example, we are talking here about man and men, but for the general rule, without S and ES is singular, with S and ES is plural. Example, girl becomes girls, dog becomes dogs. So the bottom of this slide is what is you should remember. The rule for subjects is singular, no S and ES, plural with S and ES. That is what you should remember. Altogether, singular and plural subjects. If the subject is singular, it can be I, you, he, she, it, and singular nouns without S. If the subject is plural, it can be we, you, they, and a subject plus S and ES. Remember that. Now, we are done with subjects. We come to verbs. What is a verb? A verb is an action. It can be any action. It can be running, seeing, eating, or it has different forms. It can be to run, to eat, to see, or simply run, eat, and see. So we are not going to go into the technical grammatical details of verbs, but we are simply going to teach you enough that is required to understand subject-verb agreement. Sam plays football. He likes it a lot. So the same sentence we saw the last time. Sam was the subject. Here, Sam is the subject again, and plays is the verb. He is the subject again in the second clause, and likes is the verb. The girl dances well. So the girl is the subject, dances is the verb. My family eats dinner. My family is the subject, and eats is the verb. Now this is the tricky part. If you understood things till now, it is really nice. But this is where subject-verb agreement gets tricky. So as we discussed, singular subjects do not carry an S, and plural subjects carry S with them, or ES. Now for verbs, it goes in the inverse direction. If the verb is singular, it will carry S, and if it is plural, it will not carry S. This is the point where a lot of non-native speakers get confused. English is a weird language, I agree with that, and you just have to follow the rules. You have to remember this thing, that subject and verb are inverse when it comes to singular and plural changes. Singular and plural forms of verbs. Unlike subjects that add S and ES to become plural, verbs follow the reverse rule. So if the verb is singular, the verb will carry S or ES. For example, likes, eats, sleeps. Plural verbs do not carry S and ES. For example, like, eat, and sleep. Now, we had this list in the beginning of the video. We first needed to understand what is a subject, what is a verb, and then we are going to see how they agree with each other. Now, we are done with the first 2 points. If you have understood this, it will be easier to understand the final point. If you have not, you can go back and repeat the video. And just keep in mind that subject and verb, they are inverse when it comes to changing from singular to plural forms. Yes. For our own sake, I would like to remind you, please give us a like and subscribe, and share our video if you appreciate our work and if we are helping you with your IELTS preparation. It will really help us grow and help you in a better manner. How do subject and verb agree? Finally, we are here. Rule number 1. If the subject is plural, like we, you in the plural, they, or plural nouns, for example, girls or boys or other plural nouns, then the verb should also be plural. So a plural subject takes a plural verb. Okay, but there are exceptions to this rule. You can call it exceptions or an extension to this rule. If the subject is first person or second person, even singular, first person as an I and second person singular you, then too the verb is plural. So in all of these situations, the verb will be plural. That means that the verb will not take an S. They play football. So they is the subject, which is plural, and play is the verb, which is plural. We make dinner. We is plural subject, make plural verb. Remember, plural verbs do not carry S. These girls dance well. So girls, subject, plural nouns. Dance well, verb, plural verb. Countries make laws for their citizens. Countries, plural subject, make plural verb. I like Chinese food. Now this is the extension of the rule. Even though I is not plural, even though it is singular, still we will apply the same rule that the verb should be plural. Now we know that this is twisted, but this is how you understand the concept. I like Chinese food. I being singular first person and the verb being like in the plural form. You make good paintings. So you being the second person singular subject and make being the plural verb. This is the first rule of subject-verb agreement. Coming down to the second rule. If the subject is third person singular, like he, she, it, singular nouns like girl or boy or a person's name, then the verb is also singular. So basically, if the subject is singular, but then the verb is also singular, but the exception is that even though I and you are singular, this rule does not apply to them. So this is where it gets confusing. So I and you will follow the first rule, and I and you will not follow the second rule, even if they are singular. He plays football. So he is a singular subject, plays is a singular verb. Singular verbs take S, remember. She goes to work. She is a singular subject and goes is a singular verb. It works well. So it is a singular subject and works is a singular verb. The girl dances well. The girl, singular subject, dances, singular verb with an S. Tom likes to watch movies. Tom, third person, noun, singular, and likes is the verb, which is in the singular form. Special verbs and avoiding mistakes. English language always has a lot of exceptions, always is twisted, but we need to understand that if you want to score good in our IELTS exam. Has and have. First and second person will take have. I and you subjects will take have. Third person will take has. He, she, it, they have. Okay, again, that is another exception. I have a car. You have a good home. He, she, it, Tom has a nice shirt. Now, if the third person is singular, it will take has, but at the same time, if the third person is plural, they will take have. They have a nice house. That is the exception. I have a nice house. You have a nice house. He, she, it has a nice house. They have a nice house. We have a nice house. That is how it goes. Special verbs and avoiding mistakes, part 2. Be forms of verb. First person takes am, second person singular and third person plural take are. Third person singular takes is. For example, I am excited. You are a good person. You, second person singular, you are a good person. They, the children, the girls. Third person plural, the one here, third person plural takes are. They, the children, the girls are polite. He, she, it, Tom is a student. Third person singular takes is. He, she, it, Tom is a student. So these were the two verbs like has and have form of verb and be form of verb, which are confusing, and they have different forms for different subjects, and that is why we needed to include this in our video. Finally, we are at IELTS again. Application of subject-verb agreement in writing task 2. Take a look at this question, and in the answer is just the introduction for the essay, and we have highlighted the subjects in blue and the verbs in pink. In some countries, young people are encouraged to work or travel for a year between finishing high school and starting university studies. Discuss the advantage and the disadvantage for people who decided to do this. Young adults in several nations are advised to take up work or travel for the period of a year before joining higher studies after graduating from school. The positive outcome of the aforementioned concept is that they get a good exposure to the world through this idea, whereas the negative side is that they might lose interest in studies. Now, young adults is the subject, are is the verb here. The positive outcome is the subject, is the verb, they is the subject, get is the verb. So they is a plural subject and get is a plural verb without an s. The negative side is third person singular goes with is. Application of subject-verb agreement in speaking part 2. Now, this is a sample question for speaking part 2, and of course, I have not written down the entire response, just a part of the response to help you understand how subject-verb agreement works in speaking and how simple present tense is the most used tense even for speaking. Describe a person you know who has a good dressing sense. The way a person dresses is an important factor in the impression they have over others, especially when they meet someone for the first time. I would like to talk about a friend of mine. Her name is Zainab. I met her while I was at university doing my bachelor's degree. She always wears the best and most impressive outfits whenever she goes out. She knows the different ways she can make herself look better by using scarves, jackets, belts, and other accessories. So just like the last slide, even in this one, the subject is highlighted in blue and the verb is in pink. The way a person dresses is the subject, is third person singular. We are talking about one way. The way a person dresses is they, plural third person, have. Plural third person takes have, not has. They meet, plural third person, meet, plural verb without an s. Her name is the subject, is the verb. Then I is the subject here again, but met is the verb, but it is in the past tense, so we are not going to discuss that right now. She wears. She, third person singular, wears, singular verb with an s. She goes out. She is third person singular, verb is again singular with an s. She, third person singular, knows, verb, singular verb with an s. So you see how we have used subject verb agreement for the simple present tense. How many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times in just this. Probably it will take 30 seconds to say this in the cue card, and we have used subject verb agreement so many times for the simple present tense. So this is the importance of this topic for your IELTS preparation. Finally, we are at the free feedback perk for everyone who has watched this video till the end. The question for you is, some people say that the government should spend more money on railways instead of roads. Do you agree or disagree? What you are supposed to do is to comment down below with the introduction paragraph of this question. Write the introduction paragraph including the paraphrase question, include your stand, and include 2 relevant ideas, and wait for our feedback. That is your task for today, and we will get back to you. Watch the second part of this video to learn about how to use subject-verb agreement in different situations when the subjects are more complicated than the ones discussed in this video. Now, the second part will be coming up soon, and we will teach you the different ways in which this rule gets twisted around and how it could confuse you. So that was it for today. I hope that you enjoyed the video and at the same time learned something new. We at My IELTS Dream, we release videos every week for you to help you prepare with your IELTS preparation. If there is anything in particular that you want us to make a video on, please let us know in the comments. Go back down to the description to get a free sample essay and a free method on how to prepare answers for any cue card question. So that was it for today, and stay tuned for our next video, which will be again on subject-verb agreement and the different ways it can get complicated. Thank you for watching and stay tuned.